Welcome everyone. My name is Gavriel Rosen. I have the great honor, great privilege of having my Rosh Yeshiva, our Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Mosheh Lichtenstein here, with whom I'm going to be discussing different themes which come out during Seder night and across Pesach as a whole. We're going to look at a few different topics. The first one, which I want to discuss with the Rosh Yeshiva today, is looking at some reflections of Rav Soloveitchik on Pesach and on Leil HaSeder. Now, I didn't have to go very far. In fact, the first line of his book, before I found one great quote, which I think serves a great launch pad to discuss what is so special about Leil HaSeder. The Rav starts his book on Pesach with a personal reflection. He says as follows: "Let me start on a personal note. In my experiential, not intellectual memory, two nights stand out as singular, as endowed with unique and fascinating quality, exalted in their holiness and shining with a dazzling beauty. The night of the Seder and the night of Kol Nidre. As a child, I was fascinated, indeed entranced, by these two clear, moonlit nights, both wrapped in grandeur and majesty. I used to feel stimulated, aroused, inspired, illuminated by this illuminating vision heightened my senses, which were sharpened and liberated from all inhibitions. A strange silence, stillness, and peace and quiet and serenity enveloped me. I used to surrender to a stream of inflowing joy and ecstasy." The Rav then goes on to say how Leil HaSeder and Kol Nidre stuck out in his mind as two unique nights of the Jewish calendar. This experience of Leil HaSeder as being this magical point of the year which everyone remembers from their childhood is something which is very commonly shared. I wonder if the Rosh Yeshiva could describe to us what it is about Leil HaSeder which gives it this unique character.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this session and for sharing this discussion about Pesach night, which indeed is one of the most important events of the year, which is indelibly described upon a person's neshama throughout the year. In a sense, by answering your question, I'll be sinning to the whole premise of the quote, which is, it's an experience. Any attempt to analyze and dissect an experience is a grave sin in and of itself. Because I think really the Rav captured the essence of the point. The essence of the point is the Seder is an experience. And I think it's focused upon two things, or two elements. One is the centrality of the child. It's no accident that Rav discusses his childhood Sedarim. Matter of fact, I was with the Rav, I discussed with the Rav at some of the adult Sedarim, which were under the cloud of his wife's, of my grandmother's Petira, and that cast a shadow on the whole evening. But also, it was not quite the description over here, because the child will always have a different memory, much more enchanted memory than the adult. The adult is very analyzing Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. The child is experiencing it. When we came in Aliyah, after we came in Aliyah, a few months, Nechama Leibovitz, Zechat Tzadika Livracha, came to visit our house. And my parents mentioned that my sister, Esti, was studying then Parshas Noach. It was the first time she studied Chumash. And Nechama came to her and said, "Nu, hateva kvar nacha? Did the ark actually rest already? Has it landed yet?" Now, a 6-year-old doesn't know the answer. A 6-year-old is really in suspense. When you read Parshas Noach 50, 60, 100 times, and you have to analyze the symbolism of the teva and the inner significance and the dynamics of the story, it's all important, but the wonder of the first time reading the story, what's going to happen to Yosef when he's in the pit? That wonder and that excitement is gone forever once you know the end. And I think the child has a seder, which is the mystery, the experience is all there. The Rav used to tell a story as a child. I think it was by Reb Chaim, if I remember. And someone knocked on the door in the middle of the Seder, a neighbor. He was with a white beard, a big white beard. He He was wearing a kittel, of course. He came to ask a shaila because he fell asleep in Leil HaSeder. It's the sugi at the end of Pesachim talks about nisnamnemu, yashinu. He came to ask Reb Chaim a shaila. He opened the door. The Rav opened the door. He was a child. He thought it was Eliyahu Navi because this person standing all clad in white. And these are the Haggadah is focused on the child. Vigata levincha. It's really focused upon the child. My father, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, he used to make a seder which was child-centric. Everything else was subordinate to the children. I remember guys in the yeshiva, Bachim in the yeshiva used to invite themselves over to the seder. My parents would invite them, and they came anticipating an evening with this tremendous analysis, and they would view Rav Lichtenstein analyzing Magid. And all they saw was my father relating to children. And all of these guests were second fiddle because they were adults. The child had all the attention. He was the focus of attention. And that's the way it should be. Literally, vigadita levincha. And that's, I think, the main reason why the Seder is so enchanted. There's also another reason. And this is the word the Rav used, and you used also a few times, experience. What we're trying to accomplish on Pesach night is not analysis. It's really to experience. See, b'chol dor v'dor chayiv adam liras es atzmo ki liyotzei mitzrayim. What is that? That's not logic. Logically, no. Logically, I know it's been thousands of years. That's experience, right? The famous distinction between zechira and sipur. It's exactly this point. I illustrate this to my children every year. I begin to say, saying, what's the difference between Zechiras, Yitzias Mitzrayim, and Sipur? So I don't begin to enumerate the nafkaminas that Reb Chaim mentioned. What I do is, I say, look, think for a moment about Yom HaShoah L'Havdil, right? I think Zechira is the prism, through which you filter everything. Everything in your conscience should be filtered. A Jew cannot live in Tafshin Pei Bet in 2022 without filtering everything that happens through the Shoah. It doesn't matter whether it's Ukraine or 1,002 other things, or Iran, or a bar mitzvah of a grandson of a survivor, etc., etc. Everything is filtered through that. That's through the whole year round. Everything that happens, we filter through this consciousness. That's what I call zechira, having a certain toda'ah, consciousness. In Yom HaShoah, a day a year, we try to re-experience. We try to go back in time. What was it like? I think a person should read the stories, the memoirs, listen to the accounts. You try to really, basically, to crawl back in time and listen to the stories. What was it like to be there? And this Pesach night is not to understand the significance of Zech Yitzias Mitzrayim. What the Ramban discussed at the end of Parshas Bo. What's the theological significance? You're trying to understand Pesach night to experience, to what does it mean to be, to have lived over there. The reason we tell the story in great detail is not simply because it's a halachic requirement. By telling the story in detail, you can appeal to the imagination. It has to be imaginative, not intellectual. Now, most of the time, we really deal with intellect, and we can't live our whole lives in the past. You can't spend the whole year living in the past. But for extremely important experiences, and particularly 2 days, Pesach night and Tisha B'Av, we try to experience, not to analyze. And because of that, Pesach is such a unique and important and enchanted evening. I'll add one final point. The quote you mentioned mentions Yom Kippur as well. It's the same idea. You put in the kittel, whatever the tamei minhagim, whatever the reason, the rationale, I can tell you what it accomplishes. It's a sense of we are not in the regular world, right? I tell my children every year, we begin to say this, forget about the reason you read a kittel, but look. Abba, or now Baruch Hashem, it's my grandchildren, Saba's wearing a dress. Like, why in the world would a grown adult be wearing a dress, or galabia? And whatever the reason is, it's unique, it's different. This is not normal life. You've escaped your routine. You basically escaped exactly the rigors of routine. And you're living in this different world. And it's the same true of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, we say you should feel like a malach. And this, I think, is why they're similar but very, very dissimilar. In Yom Kippur, we escape our routine and we leave the world of habit and the familiar world. We leave by becoming malachim. We basically do everything different. And we do it different by escaping the body. And a person in Yom Kippur should be like an angel. He should be like a malach. And Pesach is the reverse. In Pesach, we sink our teeth into the physical elements. Pesach gives such prominence to food, to the whole evening revolves around food. And it's because on Pesach, we make things different. Normally, the whole year round, you have this balance between soul and matter, between our physical needs and our spiritual needs. And we try to balance them that, our stomach should not be center stage in our experience. Dafka Pesach night, by making it our physical needs so central, it becomes very different and unique because they're central but spiritual. And this ability to make your physical and bodily needs so spiritual, it upsets or it changes the balance the whole year round. You couldn't do it the whole year round. But once a year, it creates a unique feeling, which is why we feel that Pesach is such an important and enchanted evening.